Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. We have an awesome, fantastic show planned for you today. I'm here in my home studio. TJ Moe will be joining us shortly, so will Steve Kim. Shamika Michelle will join us a little later in the show. We're going to have a pretty broad discussion about the legacy of Russell Wilson, the NFL quarterback who was benched yesterday by the New York Giants, signaling pretty much the end of Russell Wilson's career as an NFL starter. He's kind of bombed out in Pittsburgh. Now he's bombed out with the New York Giants. It's over for Russell Wilson, and I've got a take on that. We'll talk a little bit about Mike Gundy stepping down or getting fired at Oklahoma State. Drew Brees has joined the First Take team. We've got some thoughts on that. We will end the show talking a little bit about Jimmy Kimmel and his return to late night TV last night. He apologized. TJ Moe and Shamika Michelle and I will discuss whether we bought the apology and some of the other things Jimmy Kimmel had to say. And then we'll end the show. Russell Westbrook. I got a lot of Russells on my mind today. Russell Westbrook's wife slid into my DMs. Nina Westbrook slid into my DMs and made some threats. And I'm going to air out her sliding into my DMs on IG. I want to give her a full hearing that she seems to be looking for. And so I'll just warn Russell Westbrook now, hey, look, don't blame me. Blame Nina. She slid into my DMs. I wasn't giving Nina a second thought, but she decided to slide into my DMs. This is not on me if you don't like how I react. Blame your wife, not me. Anyway, so fantastic show. Let me start by reminding you all listening over Apple to hit that 5-star review. We need it. We need it to help fight the algorithm. Need it. Give me the 5-star review, please. Also, want to start out by thanking Relief Factor for making today possible. Relief Factor, you guys know, is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that fights inflammation. It fights the inflammation it causes this and is the source of the aches and pains that many of us experience. Relief Factor, I've incorporated into my life. And you'll hear me today talk about like this week has been very difficult. I got a lot going on, and Relief Factor is a big part of why I'm able to accomplish what I've had going on this week. And the other thing, tonight I'm going out to dinner with my guy Jeffrey Steele, and you know I love to share Jeffrey's story about Relief Factor and how guy's 63 years old. He bikes 30 miles every morning, and he does it because he takes Relief Factor. I've been able to work out and keep up with my schedule and move around with a lot less pain because of Relief Factor. They've got a 3-week quick start program that's just $19.95. It's kind of like a trial. You can figure out if Relief Factor's the right fit for you. If you sign up, get the 3-week quick start program. It's just $20 or $19.95, and you can find out if the source of your pain can be cured or improved by Relief Factor. And 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start, they start feeling the benefits of Relief Factor, and they circle back and re-up for more Relief Factor. Become a part of the Relief Factor success story. There's 2 ways to get it. 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4-RELIEF. Or visit relieffactor.com. All right, let's get into today's show and Russell Wilson. And the New York Giants have announced that they are starting rookie quarterback Jackson Dart this weekend. The Giants are off to a rough start. Russell Wilson's looked good in spots, and then he's had some very difficult stretches within games where he's actually played pretty well. I don't think this is any surprise to anyone. I think many people thought hey, if the Giants were going to do this, they should have started the season with Jackson Dart, because we all kind of felt like this was inevitable. But I think this is a good time to take a step back and evaluate Russell Wilson's career in total. The man actually, and this will sound somewhat crazy right now, he had a Hall of Fame NFL career, but it has been totally tarnished and destroyed by Black Twitter. Black Twitter. Many people will say, oh, it's the Legion of Boom, that defense in Seattle that had a problem with Russell Wilson, that's the real problem with Russell Wilson. He couldn't connect with his black teammates. They called him Russell Weirdo. He had a weird personality. He was different. And I say, no. Even his Legion of Boom teammates, even if they were unfair to him, and they were, it's because of Black Twitter. It's because of this social media influence and this thing that they invented, Black Twitter, to control the mentality and the identity of black people. Black Twitter destroyed Russell Wilson. And it started basically on draft day for Russell Wilson. 15 years ago, on draft day, that picture of Russell Wilson and that video of Russell Wilson's then wife, or fiance, I think it was his wife then, but fiance, them celebrating him getting drafted. And that image of her with her mouth wide open and teeth and just, that image, that meme all over Black Twitter, Russell Wilson, white wife, white girlfriend, celebrating. They use that to ridicule this man from the very beginning of his career. And first 9 years of Russell Wilson's success, there is no one that would not say that, man, super successful. Super successful. 9 straight years with a winning record every year. 9 straight years of making it to the playoffs. I believe they made it to the playoffs every year. But if you go look at the first, I think maybe in his first 10 years, he played in 10 Pro Bowls, had a couple of, I think, second team All-Pros. Russell Wilson was a Hall of Fame quarterback, well on his way. And then he leaves Seattle with his reputation tarnished and never being able to escape the belief, the narrative that he couldn't connect with his black teammates. And yes, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and some of these defensive players, the Legion of Boom, were tough on Russell Wilson. And then Marshawn Lynch, the running back, started chiming in and piling on. They all did it pandering to Black Twitter, in my opinion. And that's why I call Black Twitter the Legion of Doom. Black Twitter is the vehicle that controls what is and isn't acceptable for black athletes, black entertainers. And from draft day on, with the picture of him and his wife or fiance celebrating on the couch, they ridiculed this man. And even when he ends up divorcing the wife, or she divorces him, or they go their separate ways, and he remarries Ciara, someone from the culture, someone that's got a baby by a rapper. He marries her, makes an honest woman of her, seems to go all in with her and the kid she had by, is it Future? I think she's got the baby by, or Offset, Future, one of these rappers, Snoop Dogg, one of these rappers tapped her up and got her pregnant, and he's been raising that baby as his own. Russell Wilson has been the ideal husband, mentor, father. He's played the game. And he's, I hate to even call it a game, but he's done the right things, but he's never been able to repair his image. He's never been able to escape. He's not black enough. He's never been able to escape that he's Russell Weirdo. He's never been able to escape Black Twitter. And this is not to me saying Russell Wilson did everything appropriately and properly, but it speaks to the limited box that black athletes, black young people, black men, that they play in. Their behavior, what they can and cannot do, is gatekept at a level no one else's is. You're not trust me, there are some weird white quarterbacks. You don't hear about them. You don't hear conversations in detail about, hey, they're not white enough or they're too white. You don't hear, they're allowed to be themselves as long as they can play on the field, as long as they're an asset on the field. Well, for 9 or 10 straight years in Seattle, no one could argue that Russell Wilson wasn't a strong asset and valuable for Seattle. But he had to spend so much energy, so much emotional energy, fighting the label, not black enough, he's weird, his defensive teammates don't like him, don't respect him. His Marshawn Lynch, he was at some party, and let me translate all the criticism in reality as it relates to Russell Wilson. Man, he don't smoke enough weed with us. He don't come out and get drunk and hit the strip clubs with us. He don't say the N-word enough or the right way. He don't say nigga enough. That was the real criticism of Russell Wilson. Man, if he came out and partied with us and smoked weed and spoke this slang and denigrated himself by calling himself and others the N-word constantly, man, he'd be down. He would fit in more. Russell Wilson was never allowed that freedom. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying that everything that he did was appropriate. That there are things odd about his personality. But when someone's balling for you for a decade straight, when someone is that kind of an asset for you that many years straight, teams put up with it. Teammates put up with it. If you're white, if you're black, it becomes this albatross that jumps on your back and weighs you down and has you feeling conflicted, survivor's remorse, has you questioning your own identity. Am I black enough? Do I need to marry some R&B singer that has a baby by a rapper? Do I need to? Remember when he got the new contract and he and Ciara were laying in bed and, Russell Wilson put on his best Barry White voice and I can't even remember what he said, but it was something like, are you ready, Seattle? Or Seattle, here we come, or Seattle, we... I can't remember what it was, but it was Russell Wilson trying to act like he was... Why can't I think of Donnie Simpson's name? Or he used to host Soul Train. Don Cornelius, is that? But it was Russell Wilson trying to do the black effect, trying to satisfy black Twitter, trying to appease all the people that say he's not black enough. That's what eventually destroyed Russell Wilson. And no one's going to apologize for it. No one's going to admit it. They're all going to do what someone like Ryan Clark does. Lamar Jackson, he's the real black quarterback. Everybody else, not just Russell Wilson, but Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, they're not really black enough unless you wear dreads and cornrows, unless you speak a style of English that's hard to understand and is ebonic as hell. You're just not black enough. I want to remind you of what Ryan Clark had to say about Russell Wilson a couple of months ago. Play the clip.
And if Cam Newton doesn't bring the style of play that he had the opportunity to bring from Auburn to the NFL and win an MVP doing it, we don't have a Lamar Jackson.
Correct.
See, we've needed at that position, because of all the negativity surrounding whether or not people like you can play it, we needed each of you to get to this point.
Yes.
And that's why we need Lamar Jackson to take that next step and hold that Lombardi trophy the same way we all cried when Doug Williams did it in the 80s.
Yes.
That is Ryan Clark speaking for Black Twitter. That is the kind of gatekeeping that has gone on with Russell Wilson his entire career and hampered him and nearly destroyed him and, undermined and made his career not be revered. Because I still think, even with the way this thing has crash landed, I still think Russell Wilson is a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback. I'm not sure if he'll make it. I think his reputation will continue to get smeared and smeared and smeared, and maybe he'll be a fifth ballot Hall of Famer when he should have been a second or third ballot Hall of Famer, or who knows how long it'll take. But Russell Wilson's career has been damaged, destroyed, undermined by Black Twitter. I'll give you the analogy, and I wish I was giving this analogy earlier in his career and earlier in this person I'm about to reference in his career. But this reminds me of Will Smith and Suge Knight. Suge Knight, who never rapped but was just kind of represented the persona of rap music and the brand of rap music. Far more respected than Will Smith, whose rap songs like Summertime and the rap songs that didn't do a lot of cursing, didn't promote gang violence. Will Smith was, starring in movies, Men in Black, getting $20 million a movie, doing music that you could play in front of your kids and your parents and your grandparents. But he was never black enough. And Suge Knight, someone like Suge Knight, had more respect and was more revered and more celebrated than Will Smith as a rapper. And when we look back at Russell Wilson's career, I think at some point, if we're in our right minds, we will be amazed that Marshawn Lynch will be more respected than Russell Wilson. Marshawn Lynch, and I'm not going to apologize for it, it's factual, it's true, it's the way he wants to portray himself, it's the way he carries himself. Marshawn Lynch wants you to think that he's a thug, and he carries himself that way. And he speaks a style of English that's difficult to understand, and he looks high most of the time you see him. The entire league, the entire corporate media structure will be more comfortable with Marshawn Lynch than Russell Wilson. That's amazing. Everybody listening to the sound of my voice would much rather have Russell Wilson at their Thanksgiving dinner table than Marshawn Lynch, unless your Thanksgiving dinner table includes a big bag of weed and maybe a little ecstasy on the side. But everybody, hey, Russell Wilson's coming over for Thanksgiving dinner. Hey, Russell Wilson's dating my daughter. Hey, Russell Wilson's dating my auntie. Whatever. Oh, that's great. Awesome. He's going to treat your auntie or your daughter the way he's treated Ciara and her stray baby. That would be awesome. But yeah, most of America would rather sit around and get high and talk stupid with Marshawn Lynch. It's very sad. All right, I wanted to get that off my chest. We'll see if Steve Kim and TJ Moe agree with me that Russell Wilson, 1, is a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback. 2, did Black Twitter diminish Russell Wilson's career? And 3, will Russell Wilson ever start another NFL game again? I don't think so. All right, Steve Kim, TJ Moe, next.
One guy wears big gold chains and tries to dress in hoodies like he's a child and invites rappers into his environment, and the other guy is One guy wears big gold chains and tries to dress in hoodies like he's a child and invites rappers into his environment, and the other guy is dead serious about playing football. One guy had as much human athletic talent as possible and used that talent to have a Hall of Fame career. Another guy had a lot of talent but used his mind to elevate his game to an unprecedented level and wants to pass that on. I think a lot of NFL teams college teams would be willing to take a flyer on Tom Brady as a head coach. And most people will call, oh, that's racist. You know, they wouldn't do this for a black guy. Well, does any of them have 7 Super Bowls? You know, guys with 7 Super Bowls get opportunities that guys with 1, 2, 3, or 0 don't.
Keep this in mind. I hear the argument. Tom Brady was a brilliant player. Some think he's the greatest player ever. He was with Belichick. He's never coached one day in his life. He's never been a coordinator nor a position coach. I get your point about privilege. It's an earned privilege that he has. But he's literally never put on a whistle and or clipboard. Okay, but I hear it, but there is a reality to this situation, and I just don't think he wants to be a head coach. I really don't.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 reason that I'm back is to feed you raps and I see that you up here below so
All right, welcome back. I believe, are we still having technical difficulties with Steve Kim? Anyway, before we get to TJ Moe, I want to thank our friends at CBDistillery. And one of the main reasons I want to do is because I am so looking forward to tonight. Because I got another long day ahead of me with meetings and things I got to do. And it's been a very busy week. And if you're listening to me blow my nose and cough, you know it's a struggle this week. My allergies have gone completely haywire. I was out late last night. I went to the National Songwriter Association Awards dinner last night, went to the after party last night. One of my neighbors was one of the primary sponsors of this deal. And anyway, we went out, had a good time, and it's been some long days for me. You guys know I go to bed very early, and that's why tonight I'm going to take me some CBDistillery, and I'm going to sleep like a baby when tonight is over. And I cannot wait because I need the rest. You guys know those nights when you just don't sleep and the next day you're dragging, exhausted, and everything just feels harder. That's where CBD from CBDistillery can make a real difference. But it's not just sleep. CBDistillery has solutions that work with your body to help with stress, pain after exercise, and even mood and focus. And it's all made with the highest quality, clean ingredients. No fillers, just premium CBD. Imagine waking up rested or enjoying your day without those nagging aches and pains. That's the real win of CBDistillery solutions. That's why over 2 million people trust CBDistillery. So if you're ready for better sleep, less stress, and feeling good in your own skin, try CBD from CBDistillery. And right now you can save 25% off your entire purchase. Visit CBDistillery and use promo code FEARLESS. That's CBDistillery.com, promo code FEARLESS, or CBDistillery.com. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. Thank you, CBDistillery, and I will be enjoying you tonight. All right, TJ Moe, welcome into the conversation. TJ, am I right that Russell, despite this crash landing of the last 5-6 years, Russell Wilson has done enough to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer?
That's a good question. It obviously everything depends on what, there's a recency bias. And when the last thing that you hear for a very long time is somebody who's this bad, and he's this bad on multiple teams, there's a problem. And I get it. He was incredible. I thought he played during probably the best era of quarterbacks in NFL history all at the same time. We've gone back several times, and you go back to like those 2009, 10, 11-ish. You got like 8 or 9 Hall of Famers playing at once. He I actually think you could easily make the argument he was never a top 5 quarterback in the league, which is a difficult thing. Like, if you weren't a top 5 quarterback in the league, can you be a Hall of Famer? These are questions that they're going to be asking. For years, they said, to be a Hall of Famer, in some circles, they'll say you had to at least be the best at your position for a year. I don't think Russell Wilson ever was. I like your overall contention that he's been destroyed somewhat by his own self-conscious, trying to be something he's not. He went from marrying that white girl to marrying Sierra. Okay. Like that's definitionally trying to be something that you're not. And that can destroy your legacy.
Well, hold on for a second. Hold on for that. He would potentially argue, hey, when I married the white girl, that wasn't really me. That Ciara is really me. That I actually prefer chocolate over vanilla, or I actually prefer a international R&B person rather than a nondescript trad wife.
Nah, it's a personality thing. I mean, he could lie to himself. I'm sure he'd say that, of course, right? You wouldn't say that about the person you're currently married to. Yeah, she's not the one for me. I prefer the white one. You wouldn't say that. But all of us can see it. There's nobody reasonably sitting here that would say his personality, the sort of quiet, manufactured, weird guy that he is, lines up more with an international R&B star than it does with some quiet white woman. You can't tell me that. Our eyes work.
Do we know that that's a quiet white woman?
No, but we do know what his personality is, and I know this somewhat anecdotally, but I do know people that have played with him, and so because of that, I have some insight into his personality, not just what we see in the media.
So tell me this though: when someone does what he did those first 9 or 10 years in Seattle, I don't think anyone should care that he's a weirdo. When he gets on the field for the 60 minutes the clock's running and the 3-hour length of those games, he performed at a really high level. I think you put up with the weirdness as long as it's not something that invades your personal space or cause some sort of controversy that you had to deal with. It's not like he was sitting out there, hey, I'm going to take a knee during the national anthem, or hey, I'm going to get heavily involved in politics and make you guys have to answer questions about my politics. He just seemed to have some weirdness to where, he wasn't that relatable. He wasn't the fun guy. He wasn't the guy that, hey, let's all come over to my house and we're going to have a party and there'll be Instagram models here and everybody will, I think about what type of friend I was and why and I was the wrong type of friend. I was, hey, Whitlock's throwing a party. Let's all go. It's going to be great. And that works well in a locker room environment. But if someone's performing, I wouldn't care. We got a graphic designer named Ren. Guy's brilliant. He's brilliant. But he's a little off center. I love him to death. I mean, he's awesome. And so you got to allow for that. If someone is performing, you deal with the fact that Ren won't get a haircut and he's nearly 50 years old. You just put up with it.
And you know who is really okay with Ren? Ren. You know who's really not okay with Russell Wilson? Russ, which is how you end up like this. And this is the problem. I agree that Richard Sherman didn't do anybody any favors. I totally agree with that. I also agree that if you've read enough about this, and I know you have because we've had this discussion, that Pete Carroll didn't do Russell Wilson any favors by favoring him, by sort of sheltering him, by having him be his own little separate deal. He did the opposite of what Belichick did to Tom Brady. Tom Brady, he made an example out of Tom Brady. He chewed him out in front of everybody to make the point that if Tom Brady, the future Hall of Famer, the best quarterback that's ever existed, if he can get an earful from me, so can you. And he made that point. Pete Carroll did the opposite with Russell Wilson. And so I would just suggest, because I totally agree with you, I was certainly not one of the guys ever on any team that I've ever been in, ever in any friend group that I've ever been in, okay? I'm just not one of the guys, and I don't want to be one of the guys. I'm not interested. I don't like to drink. I've never touched drugs in my life. I really don't like being out past about 7:30. Like, I'm just not one of the guys. I've been this way my entire life, okay? So I would be the guy defending Russell Wilson. But again, you know who was totally fine with TJ Moe? TJ Moe. I was totally good with that. Didn't have a single problem with changing who I should be or what a guy, because there were guys at Mizzou who didn't like that I wouldn't come out with the guys, who didn't like that I wasn't going out with all the girls and hanging out at the strip clubs. There were guys that didn't like that. Didn't have a lot of pressure. I didn't have problems with the guys, but I was super okay with that. And there was never a moment where we had problems. I'll give you another guy, and you followed him. James Franklin has got a lot. James Franklin, not the Penn State coach, the guy, quarterback that I played with at Mizzou, who was a really good for at least one season, probably 2 seasons, quarterback in the Big 12 and the SEC. Took Mizzou to the SEC championship game. He had a lot of Russell Wilson in him, a ton, and he didn't go out with the guys at all. He was strange in a lot of different ways. Very, very religious. So am I, and he had his own way of doing things. And so, but I would just tell you that James was pretty okay with James. And so I think things don't fall apart when you're okay with yourself. And I think Russell Wilson has demonstrated, what I think, Sierra, is a midlife crisis. That's what it looks like to me. You take on Future's baby mama, you take her on as your own, that's a midlife crisis. That's what we saw. And then we saw his life fall apart.
I think Steve Kim is here with us. Steve, what do you think of my contention that despite the crash landing, Russell Wilson is a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback?
Well, first of all, my apologies for my delayed entry. I had some technical issues. Jason, there was no bigger fan of Russell Wilson than me. Okay, and I'm the one who coined Russell Weirdo. Now, we got to put some context into this. That moniker did not start till his antics in Denver. Okay, I really admired him. If you go back through his history, I think he was a 3rd or 4th round draft choice out of Wisconsin, not North Carolina State. People forget that. And then he beat out Matt Flynn as a rookie. So I'm with you, Jason. For the first 8-9 years, it was Hall of Fame. He was going to get a yellow jacket. They were carving out the bust. But you ever see that movie series like Fast and Furious or Police Academy? The longer it goes, the worse it gets. And you're just like, ugh. He's become Police Academy or Fast and Furious, Jason. I cannot do it. I believe he was on the doorstep or at least on the driveway. Now when he knocks on the door, nobody's answering it, Jason. It's just been such a descent. And as I'm watching this game on Sunday on my flight back home, he's a little bit more athletic. I want to be clear about this. It reminded me of what I read and what I saw of Joe Namath as an LA Ram in 1976.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I
it's
watched
more
that with my
athletic.
own eyes. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, yes, it was. Oh, yes, it was.
Joe Namath could barely walk at that point.
That's about what Russ is doing.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you. TJ, you're right. See, Jason, this is where you got to listen to TJ. If they ran a 40-yard dash, the 1976 Joe Namath and this version of Russell Wilson, there's no doubt. Russell Wilson is infinitely faster, better. But when he sees that rush, whatever's left of that peak athleticism has gone away, and he kind of shrinks, and he just throws the ball away. I'm like, oh, God, this is bad. And I do think that Russell Wilson's public persona and the way people have perceived him does not help him. I think about this, Jason. In that COVID year of 2020, the first 6 games, people thought he was the MVP. I remember that distinctly because for a long time, he didn't get any MVP votes. Where things started to kind of change and you're like, you're not that nice Huxtable guy that we all loved, is you're right. That video he did under the sheets with Ciara, and that was because he signed that big contract extension with the Seattle Seahawks. And I remember thinking, geez, what's this? It didn't look right. And from that point on, it's just been a crash landing, one after another.
Listen, I'm going to repeat this, or I'm going to restate this. 10 years in Seattle, 9 Pro Bowls, never a losing season. Well, hold on. I'm sorry. First, he did his 10th year. They went 6-8. His record was 6-8. But 9 straight years, never a losing season. So he's 33 when he leaves Seattle, and he's put together a 10-year career at that point. If he retires, if he gets a career-ending injury, in 2021, he's going to the Hall of Fame. And it's just career-ending injury, retires, boom. It's over at 33. He's a Hall of Famer. These players that we're allowing in now, Sterling Sharp, who I think was great, but had a brief career where he was dominant and a Hall of Famer because of injuries. Terrell Davis. If these guys can get in after a short body of work, you're telling me a guy with a 10-year resume, one Super Bowl, another Super Bowl appearance, never had 9 straight years of a winning seasons, and now
Jason.
it's just because he hung on too long that destroys his Hall of Fame resume?
That's not it. That's not it. What happened, and I agree with you, actually. I agree with the entire first part of your point, that if he gets a Joe Theismann injury and he's done, he probably goes to Hall of Fame. I think that's true. And instead what happened is we got introduced to a whole bunch of new variables that made us question if he was ever that good to begin with. That is what happened. So, and somebody who, again, I've made the argument that maybe he's not the QB whisperer that we suggest, but both of you guys made the opposite argument. So I'm going to lean into that. Sean Payton. Sean Payton got a hold of him and said, this guy's trash. Get him out of here as fast as he could in Denver. So this is a guy who knows how to evaluate quarterbacks. And again, we're looking at multiple teams where he showed up, 3 teams now, where he showed up and it looks like such a disaster. And he had the best defense of the last 20 years in the Legion of Boom. He had the most unstoppable running back, probably not named Derrick Henry, of the last 20 years.
Marshawn Lynch is overrated, but go ahead.
He had a Hall of Fame head coach.
Well.
And he had a team structure that really, really worked. And again, I mean, not that the draft means everything, but like he was a 3rd rounder. So if we start piecing things together of what people thought of his talent when they first brought him in, and what Sean Payton just thought of his talent, and what Mike Tomlin just thought of his talent, and now what the Giants think of his talent, like at some point, we got a lot more variables than just he was good in Seattle for this time and then got Joe Theismann. I think there's a lot of things to consider.
TJ, to your point, if he wins that 2nd Super Bowl, if Pete Carroll just hands that ball off to Marshawn Lynch at the 1 or 2 yard line, he wins the 2nd Lombardi. I believe Russell is a shoo-in. And I don't want to hear the stats about how the Seahawks struggled in short yardage. You should have kept it simple. Give it to beast mode. They go back to back. And at this point, whatever Russell Wilson does, it wouldn't have mattered. He's a Hall of Famer. But Jason, you're going with the James Dean theory. Die young, die early, and then you get a pass. Well, unfortunately, to your point, I actually think, and this is a factor, at their peak, I believe that Terrell Davis and especially Sterling Sharp were much more dominant players than Russell Wilson was. Now, you're going with the longevity, right?
Good point.
Okay, so I don't want to hear anything when Frank Gore gets in. I better not hear no diatribes because Frank Gore, 15 years, he played it out. The longevity.
Frank Gore is not a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, when he gets that yellow jacket.
He's not a Hall of Famer. I do want to apologize to Marshawn Lynch. Even I don't like Marshawn Lynch, but I want to back off that he's overrated. I want to back off of that. I apologize for that. Here's the thing, and I'm about to bring my favorite topic into this, and I knew that if we talked about this long enough, I could sneak Caitlin Clark in here, and I'm about to do it.
I remember
what you guys are talking about as it relates to Russell Wilson in Denver, in Pittsburgh, and now the New York Jets. This is after Black Twitter and the Ryan Clarks of the world and Richard Shermans of the world have put this man through a mental black blender. And TJ, you and Steve Kim, y'all just don't understand the kind of black pressure that he was under and what that will do to you mentally unless you're completely sure in yourself. And it's very similar, I think, to what the WNBA is trying to do. And I'm at this point, I'm going to kind of predict they're going to be successful in destroying Caitlin Clark mentally. And she'll never live up to her full potential because they're putting her through that lesbian blender and that black queen blender, even though she's white. And I just don't think she's built to survive it because you can't even talk about it. It's just like the whole black thing. There's only a handful of us that are allowed or have just said, screw it, I'm going to talk about what we do to ourselves and what we're doing to Russell Wilson and what's going on with Caitlin Clark and any of these heterosexual women that enter into the WNBA. They get put through a mental stress test intended to destroy them, and I think it did. Instead of bringing out the best in Russell Wilson, we ended up bringing out the worst in Russell Wilson, and now it's fun to take a dump on him. Same thing's happening to Caitlin Clark. It's a unique thing. This whole black idolatry and this whole gay idolatry, it can kill you.
Jason, your term lesbian blender had visions, all sorts of things going through my mind mentally. I'm not going to lie about it. But putting that aside, we are a family show. So
Yeah.
here's the issue. So you talk about all the Pro Bowls he made, but how many of those were real Pro Bowls, like the ones John Elway and Dan Marino made when, it was actually a football game and guys mattered? Because a lot of guys, they make Pro Bowls, and it turns out 4 other guys said, I'm good. I've gone to Honolulu enough. You get the 5th guy. So we got to take that into context. Here's what I think is going to be the ironic thing, because you talk about the dynamic of Black Twitter. The same group of people that ripped him and castigated him and took cheap shots at him for years, if he doesn't make the Hall of Fame, will then say, well, it's racism that Russell Wilson is not in with those same credentials. I'm like, he can't win or lose.
TJ, I'll give you a final thought, then we'll move on.
It does appear, this is AI, so take everything AI says with a grain of salt, and I didn't have time to look it up long enough. It does appear he was not an alternate in the first 9 Pro Bowls, only the 10th. So that's where something. But again, I don't care about Pro Bowls at all, actually. I will stick with my argument that he was never at any point in his career a top 5 quarterback in the league. And part of that is he played in the
hold
time.
for 1 second. Hold for one. There was one year when he threw for 40 TDs. I think it was 2020. I think there was a pretty good argument, second or third best quarterback, just for that 1 year. And he started out like smoking hot with a bunch of TDs and low interceptions. Then the second half of that season, he started throwing interceptions, ended up with 13 INTs, but he was on pace. It looked like, oh man, this guy may throw for 40 and 4 interceptions. But that year, I believe he was
Jason,
top 2 or 3 quarterbacks.
Quick question for both of you. Do you guys consider Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers Hall of Famers?
Eli beat the Patriots twice, and I think is a Hall of Famer. He didn't make it first ballot, right? Hadn't he been up for first ballot and didn't make it, I think? So I agree with that. Phillip Rivers, I don't, and I like Phillip Rivers. I mean, seems like a good old country boy, Christian, bunch of babies, wife, the whole 9. Hats off to him. But I don't consider Phillip Rivers a Hall of Fame quarterback, no.
Okay, because I actually don't think either guy should get in, but I know Eli is because of the 2 Super Bowls. I'm pretty consistent about this, I think.
Jason, just final word on this whole thing. It is astonishing to me that somebody could fall apart mentally after being this accomplished. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. In any industry, in business, in marriage, and I mean, truly, when you've been this solid and this successful for this long, to then fall off a cliff, it's unprecedented.
It is, but I think the reason what you said stands true regardless of what I'm about to say. I think one of the other things, you can't relate to it and you can't understand how it happened, I think is the other part that you're stressing here. And,
yes.
And to that, I would say, TJ, you've never had the experience of getting A's and B's on your report card and getting ridiculed for it. There's something, this black experience and what they've done to the identity of black people is the weirdest, most insane, most destructive thing that I think has been done to an American human being. That when they convince you that failure and degeneracy and destructiveness are actual success, that running around and mimicking how guys act in prison is your real identity, it's hard for you to relate to. I think it's hard for Steve to relate to. Steve's probably seen it a bit more up close, just living out in L.A. or whatever. And not that you haven't seen it, but I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know that when I finally conquered my use of the N-word, it was me acknowledging that, one of the main reasons I do it is because it makes me sound black. And then once I quit caring about sounding black, it was very easy for me to say, I don't need this N-word, because the only reason why I'm using it is to sound black. And so I got to talk bad about myself to sound black. That's insanity. So it's not, when you understand what black people do to themselves, then I think it's easy to understand. Oh, I know what happened to Russell Wilson.
Well, help me
Black
understand this though,
quarterback.
because
Yep.
this is my contention that, and you're not a good example because I realize you're unique, but I'm going to use you anyway because it's a success story. When you get to a certain level of success, you dictate. And that's what I think generally happens in life. And you don't cave to things anymore. And people start accepting things that are weird because of the success. And so he had all of that. And then he still caved later. That's what's so unique about this. It wasn't like he started to crack when he was in high school and college and became this guy that was so different. And then he had some success after that, after he already cracked. He had all of his success and then he cracked. And that is what's so unique. And I don't know how to explain that.
Here's what he thought, TJ. He thought he'd have so much success that he would escape all of this pressure to be the ultimate black person. And then he figured out, like, it doesn't matter how much success I have. It doesn't matter that I'm right. And literally, I'm just, I've had this experience. And I've talked about it on the show. And I made some incredibly insane decisions as it relates to my personal life in dating, thinking. And again, I've admitted this on the show, like, yeah, not going to marry this woman. She's white, and it's going to interfere with me being able to speak to a black audience. And now I get to the other side of this and go, well, they're not going to listen to me anyway. Whether I had a white wife, black wife, green wife, I could marry the Queen of Zambia, and my message is going to be rejected because they're part of this religious sect of black religion or whatever, and the Democrat Party has such a hold on them. And so I'm sure Russell Wilson was like, man, I'm going to win a Super Bowl. I'm going to be in MVP conversations, and then everybody's going to love me and accept me. And it's like, well, dang, it didn't. I just put together 9-10 years in Seattle, and I'm in the exact same position I was every place else.
It just hit me. And it's your point, not even my thought. I'm just repeating something you already know, or I don't think we brought up yet. He's mixed. He's half
I don't
black.
think he is mixed.
I just looked it up. 62% African, 36% European, according to Google.
I think both of his parents, though, have some level of blackness in both of them. And so
that may be true.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's where and how all that plays out. But when you're 62% black and you really want to be 100% black, all what you're saying makes a little more sense to me.
Yeah. We got to move on. I went longer here than I anticipated, but I'm glad we did. Is Mike Gundy? Is that what I'm? Yeah, Mike Gundy is done at Oklahoma State. I want to, because this is when I thought Mike Gundy was dead. It's when Chuba Hubbard, I believe, the running back. I think this is in 2020, in the summer of George Floyd. Chuba Hubbard called out Mike Gundy for wearing an OAN T-shirt, OAN, the OAN network or whatever. That was a bridge too far. That was a sign of white supremacy. He's on a fishing trip wearing an OAN T-shirt, and his star running back tweeted out, "I will not stand for this. This is completely insensitive to everything going on in society, and it's unacceptable, and will not be doing anything with Oklahoma State until things change." And I know that in 2021 they went 12-2, and they had a super successful season. But I just, to me, that was the sign that, hey, Mike should get out of Oklahoma State. He's had a good run there. Go switch up positions or jobs, and things have fallen apart. But I think Gundy was done a long time ago. He played it out and got another 4 or 5 years out of it. But nothing to be ashamed of for Mike Gundy. He had a successful run in his alma mater, and I wouldn't be hanging my head. Didn't he get 20 years, Steve? How do you think Mike Gundy's going to be remembered at Oklahoma State?
I think one day there should be a statue of him. I've seen some Oklahoma State Twitter accounts that flat out are very grateful. I know it got ugly. It got bad at the end. Here's an amazing stat, guys. Out of the 11 10-win seasons that program has ever had in their history, Mike Gundy was involved in 10. 2 as a quarterback, where he was handing the ball off a lot to a guy named Barry Sanders, and I think Thurman Thomas before that, and then 8 as a coach. And I wonder, guys, if he was caught wearing a CNN or an MSNBC shirt, I think Chuba Hubbard may have rushed for 3,000 yards. This is the reality of Gundy. He's an old school football coach. Jason, I think he played football at the college level right when you did. It was different. And during the NIL transfer portal era, I don't think he liked any of it, especially when it was tied into a lot of money and everything became so transactional. And from that perspective, I know a little bit about this, having researched it. Oklahoma State had T. Boone Pickens, multi-billionaire. He was the original one-man NIL program. He was the collective. They were well-funded. He passed away. I think that changed the dynamic. And more of these shows are openly talking about how he did not want to play the NIL portal game. He clashed with the administration. So in many respects, maybe he became Blockbuster Video in a Netflix world. But overall, I believe that the Oklahoma State family and that whole fan base should be very grateful for the contributions that man made.
I think you make an excellent point about why this era just doesn't work for him. When you play at a university and then become their head coach, you get a special connection to the former players, the current players, players you didn't even play with. And because this is, I'm one of the few guys, not few, but I'm one of the main guys that I take Ball State, or used to take Ball State football very, very seriously, and took a lot of pleasure in knowing guys that played 10, 15, 20 years before me, and having made an effort to connect with every player that played after me. And now in this NIL deal, it's all gone. But for me, I know that our best players are going to transfer out after a year or two and take a check someplace else. And new play, half our rosters transfer portal guys that come from other schools. The connection just isn't there, and I guarantee you, guys like Mike Gundy, they struggle more than most with this transfer portal era because they actually love the school, love what the school did for them, love the way the school supported them, and now they're just hiring mercenaries who don't care at all, don't know the school fight song, don't know any of the history of the school, don't care about other than a Barry Sanders or the super, super great all-time players, don't care about the former players. It used to be like going to a Mizzou what meant that, hey, the former Mizzou players might take care of you or might offer you an opportunity or look out for you after your playing days. A lot of that stuff is just gone and done. It's over with. TJ?
Yeah, I had the same point Steve did, really, that I think we're moving into an era where we're going to be losing our favorite type of coaches, the program builders, the guys who there used to be 7 or 8 coaches that were coaching at their alma mater. Shaw up at Stanford and Pat Fitzgerald now has been run out and mostly cleared. Gundy, Barry Odom was at Missouri. Now he's actually doing very well at Purdue. There used to be a bunch of them, and these were program builders, and they were guys that understood how to win with lesser players and that team cohesion and keeping guys there for a long time and figuring out schemes and systems that work for you in a certain style of play that was going to work. I think those days are over. And you know who fits in that, actually, and I think recognized it really quickly and left? Nick Saban. I think Nick Saban was not cut out for the transfer portal, and he knew it, and he was going to destroy his legacy by sticking around in an era where every year he has to re-recruit his entire team. Look, Elijah Drinkwitz, who I think is tailor-made for the transfer portal era, I don't know if he'll ever leave Missouri. Like, it used to be a time where you stair-stepped up to Michigan and Alabama and Texas because they had all the money and they had all the facilities and everybody, like, that's where you had to go to win. And now it's not true anymore. Now the playoff is expanded. You can win from anywhere. Any bad year you have is just a transfer portal year away from being a top 10 team. Everybody knows this. And the philosophy is actually getting away from, we're seeing this at Missouri, where for a couple years, Drinkwitz decided that he wanted to be a good high school recruiter, and he was. And then he saw, I'll give you an example, a guy, Kewan Lacey, is a running back who was a high-level 4-star. Missouri fans were thrilled about this kid, couldn't wait. He didn't play last year as a freshman, so he left, and he's like the 3rd leading rusher in the SEC at Ole Miss right now. And so it's like, Missouri's like, why would we ever do that? And guess what? Missouri went and got a transfer, and they have the leading rusher in the SEC right now, who's already rushed for like 600 yards. They don't care. Yeah. So every year, everybody's like, forget the high school kids. I'll get them at a discount after they're not playing in Alabama. Like, one of Missouri's leading receivers this year had 1,000 yards at Ole Miss last year. You're all one good transfer portal away from being there. And what they're seeing with Gundy and some of these old program builders, those guys don't have it. The schools may not have the money. They may not have the personality. They may have the wrong philosophy. I don't know. But we're in a totally different world where I don't think Nick Saban does the same stuff in today's transfer portal. And I get it. There was a little bit of this at the beginning, and he was still at Alabama. But you drop Nick Saban in today at a brand new school, I don't think he turns Alabama into Alabama. He's a program builder, not a transfer portal.
JUCO coach. He's not a JUCO coach.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, TJ, to your point, I think Missouri signed a 5-star defensive lineman 2 years ago who already transferred, but their quarterback, Bo Pribula, should be in the Heisman race. Guess what? He's a transfer portal guy. This thing is more transactional than ever. When you guys played, even you, TJ, is much more recent. The beauty of college athletics, and especially football, was that if you graduated from a school and you played out your 4 to 5 year career, there was a link. So a guy that played in the 50s and 60s, all the way out through Jason Whitlock and beyond, you guys were a link. You were all chained together as a brotherhood, right? Same thing with Mizzou with TJ Moe. There was a link. You guys are blood. You guys put cleats on the ground together. It's beautiful to see. I see it. When I go to the Miami game, there's a tailgate called Canes for Life. It's a lot of the former players of the 80s. They still love the program. And a lot of these guys did not play in the NFL, but there's like this kinship. And the leader of that is a tight end that played from 87 to 90. He has 2 national title rings. His name is Randy Bethel. He kind of organizes it. His son played at Miami about 7-8 years ago for Mark Richt and Manny Diaz. And first time I talked to him, I said, well, Randy, what if your son was offered a lot of money after his sophomore year by another school and he can make, and he said flat out, I will not allow it. My son's a Hurricane. We are Hurricanes. He did that, I'd disown him. We're not doing it. So I'm like, wow, really? He goes, yeah, we're not doing that here. I found that admirable, if not necessarily realistic if it came up. But guys, this thing is more transactional than ever. And I believe, TJ, to your point, the next coach that could be feeling like I need out, Dabo Swinney. Dabo tried it his way, and he's finding out I don't want to be Blockbuster Video.
I want to make one last point, and TJ, I don't know if this was the same in your era, but just from a foundational belief in my era, our coach was Paul Shadell, our head coach, and he was a long-time Bo Schembechler assistant coach, and so in the mid 1980s, early 1990s, the mentality was at Ball State that you'd get 4, 5, 6 transfers in a year. But for the most part, they were so low on the totem pole that the guys that you recruited out of high school had to basically nearly get assassinated before they would even consider the transfer. And because we had an offensive lineman, I may be screwing up the guy's name, but I think he transferred in from Utah. I think his name was Steve Epps. Good guy. And he could play a little bit, but he never got a chance. He 6'3", 270-pound guy could play. And they just until all these recruits just proved to us that the high school recruits just proved to us that they can't play, we're not giving Steve Epps a look. We got a guy in that they really went after, a guy named Shawan Respress, good friend of mine. He's a high school coach in Detroit. He went to Iowa first, and he was like a 4 or 5 star recruit. But him and Hayden Fry got crossways in some kind of way, and he came to Ball State. And we really wanted him. But they made this guy sit behind, people with less physical talent than him, because these were guys that they recruited out of high school. And Shawan eventually in 1989 was a starter on a team that won the MAC championship. But Shawan at that time, by the time 1980, he was our most talented player probably. But that's not how they featured him. He had to, kind of take a back seat to guys that had been there 4 and 5 years, and that was just a philosophy thing, that we're never going to treat our transfers better than the guys we invested in at 18. And now it seems just the opposite.
I think it's been a while since that was true, Jason. Even when I played, these coaches had a short leash. So it's like, hey, I'm getting paid. Gary Pinkel, I think he was getting paid $2 million back then, which is, today that'd be inflated. He'd be making at least $7, $8 million, whatever. They were making sure they weren't getting fired, even the really established guys. And what they did every year back when I played now, which is 15 years ago, they would only take a few transfers. So it wasn't like 6 to 8 every single year. It wasn't like remember Ron Prince at K-State where he ran his entire K-State just was a JUCO. It was the second half of JUCO. People would go JUCO and then they'd finish their JUCO at K-State. That's how Ron Prince ran everything. That isn't how we did it. We would take like 2-3 transfers a year, and it was obvious needs like, hey, we brought a guy named Jasper Simmons in at safety because we looked at our safeties and we thought we're going to lose every game. We better go get a safety. That is how transfers were treated when I was in school, and I think is pretty normal. And now I think it's exactly the opposite. I think they bring in transfers to come in and compete, assuming, and rightfully so, they may lose every player on their roster this year. Somebody may poach everybody. A guy who had 1,000 yards may just leave because he feels like it.
Or he can get extra 10, $15,000, $100,000 someplace else. Guys, I'm gonna skip we've gone too long. Steve, I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna take a break and come back. TJ and Shamika Michelle are going to join me. We want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel, and I want to talk about the Russell Westbrook's wife sliding into my DMs. Next. One final point. It's like these rating stories are all controlled. And I say that by the WNBA spent all of last year, every weekend, telling us about their TV ratings because of Caitlin Clark.
That's disappeared.
Caitlin Clark disappeared. Not just the rate, but they don't even talk about it. They just played playoff games on Sunday. We're sitting here on Wednesday. No one knows what the ratings are.
Hold on.
No one cares. It was the biggest story in sports. Oh, the ratings. Now they play games and just no one talks about it. No one asks a question about it. All of this media is controlled. Our Andrew Marchand, Richard Dyke, they're all told what to write about, what to focus on. And now that Caitlin Clark's not there, Hey, let's don't talk about the WNBA ratings. Let's act like they're not even televised. Welcome back. Shamika Michelle joining TJ Moe and myself. I think TJ's still here. Isn't he? TJ still here? Yeah, TJ. TJ's still here. I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel was welcomed back to ABC last night to late night television. Although I believe Nexstar and Sinclair, those networks, did not air Jimmy Kimmel, but he offered up an apology for the comments that got him in trouble and almost cost him his job. Let's play SOT number 5, him apologizing.
Anyone's mind, but I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever.
TJ, Shamika, I'm going to start here. I call me a sucker. I buy his apology.
Oh, Jason. What is wrong with you? Have you
I'm
never
biblically
watched Jimmy
sound
Kimmel?
here, TJ. I cannot judge this man's heart. I'm going to have to judge his actions. Only God can know the heart. And I think in that apology, he covered the right things. And so I'm going to accept him at his word. And his voice cracked in a way that mine cracks whenever I get emotional. And so,
He's a good actor. He's a great actor, Jason. He's a wonderful actor. I will absolutely give you that. And I might buy it if I haven't watched him do a version of this every time he wants you to feel sorry for him. This is what he does. Every time he wants universal health care, he tells a story and his voice cracks. Every time he wants something about immigration, he tells a story and his voice cracks, okay? He is a professional manipulator. You may be biblically sound, and we should not read into people's intentions. We also shouldn't absolutely let people manipulate us at every corner when we've seen that that is what they are professionals at doing. So I'm glad he did it. Would I have him do something else? No. Get up. I actually would. Apologize to Charlie Kirk and the family. That's exactly what he did, because I really didn't hear that. What he said is, I had no intention. I didn't mean this. That's what I heard. Instead, he should have said, I had no business coming on and talking about Charlie Kirk and his family and talking about MAGA for 1 second. I had no business doing that, and I won't do it again. Sinclair and everybody else who won't put me on, I don't blame you. I hope at some point to earn your trust back. That's what he should have said. But instead, he wanted you to feel sorry for him. He made sure his voice cracked at the right moment. So people like, apparently, Jason Whitlock will buy his lie.
Shamika. Uh-oh. I don't hear Shamika. Does anyone? Oh, wow. We got some sort of technical difficulty with Shamika. We'll see if we can get that fixed. She said something about having to turn. Let me play another excerpt, and this is where I don't like what Jimmy Kimmel did here, because I would have left Donald Trump out of this and left MAGA out of this in any way. And when you start attacking Trump or talking about Trump, you're really just attacking MAGA, and he could have saved that for another day. Let's play SOT number 7. This is Jimmy Kimmel on Donald Trump.
The FCC has a tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden who was spot on. He wrote, "President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship." You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, who later was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down.
That was also in 2022. And I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
Well, a lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings.
Well, I do tonight. Thank you. Fortunately, and I think unjustly, this puts them at risk. The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against this.
So this is where he loses me. He immediately goes on the offensive, and you know when you apologize, you should be smothered in humility. It's not the time to go on an attack. If he did it today, a day later, I'd have no problem with it. But doing it on the same night, problematic for me. I think Shamika's mic is fixed. Shamika, your thoughts?
Well, Jason, I is it fixed? Can you all hear me? Okay. Yeah, I agree with you initially. And I was thinking this is why I was married for so long, because the tears just really moved me at first. But then after watching this second clip, I agree with you. You know, I'm trying to figure out I agree with TJ, who actually felt compassion when Roseanne was fired because Obama couldn't take a joke. So this happens, and for Jimmy Kimmel to act as if he was the first person this ever happened to, it's just not him being authentic. But initially, I did buy the tears. But I will say this, I don't feel like he gets a lot of views on his show, probably this time because he's just coming back. Give it a month, and the ratings will be exactly what they were before they took him off.
I also think his argument is intentionally disingenuous in terms of, like, hey, Trump's not, he has the ability to take a joke. But when everybody tells the exact same joke for 10 straight years and they never tell a joke on Joe Biden, who's a walking punchline to a joke, and you never tell one, that's what Trump is objecting to. That's what everybody on the MAGA side of things is objecting to. Is just like, hey man, if you want to crack jokes on Trump, just crack a few on. They never touched Kamala, never, rarely touched Joe Biden, and so I just think he's making a dishonest, false argument. That's the other thing that undermines Jimmy Kimmel in this instance. TJ.
And look, Trump has never been more justified in wanting people fired because he saw that your jokes about him being an authoritarian Nazi has turned into violence. But why would Trump want you to be able to continue on? Look, there are two separate arguments in play here. I have some sympathy for him coming on, and I certainly would have preferred that he did it today, like you said, coming on and say, look, I get that ABC's governed a little bit differently by the FCC, and this was a crime and all that, but this feels like censorship. It feels political. I think the government should stay out of it. That's a fair argument, one that I would lean towards, okay? The other side of it, though, is what Trump actually wants. You think Trump wants people taking shots at him because the guy who did hide in the bushes at the golf course and try to kill him was just convicted on all accounts like yesterday? Okay, like there are actually people trying to take them out. And all of this, today, Gavin Newsom went right back at it and said he doesn't think there's going to be an election in 2028 if Democrats don't stand up. Today, 2 weeks to the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Okay, Hillary Clinton came out today on MSNBC and said, in some different words, that these white Christian men continue to do the damage in America. They're going right after him. They do not care that Charlie Kirk died. And so, does anybody in the world blame Donald Trump for not wanting them to continue to spew that on network television, on cable television, on ABC, on literally every channel? Trump's like, you've seen the fruit. They tried to kill me, missed by this much, thanks to God moving my head. Charlie Kirk's dead. Yes, I get an opinion that I think you shouldn't be able to do that anymore. And that's why this whole thing's so absurd.
I would love for one of these late night hosts to consistently go on air and crack jokes and frame things up like, hey, you know, all this stuff the left does is actually demonic. It's Satan is their ruler, that every punchline went to that. Like, hey, Satan's your ruler. Hey, guys, they drove an abortion truck up to a mobile abortion truck up to the Democratic National Convention and had it right outside the door. You know, this is child sacrifice. It's demonic. It's evil. It's written about in the Bible. If every late night host was constantly just saying, hey, if you support them, you've actually teamed up with Satan, then they would know what we feel like when we hear, hey, if you support Trump, you're either an Uncle Tom sellout traitor as a black person, or you're a white supremacist as a white person. And that gets old, man. And because only one side is doing that on a national stage, it's like we have to live with the repercussions of that. That we have to run around with a scarlet letter on our forehead, that we're white supremacists with black skin, or we're white supremacists with white skin. And, you know, you can't, look, everybody knows in corporate America, in most of these corporate places, if you come out of the closet as a Trump supporter, they say, hey, you can't get a leadership position because we have some people within our corporate structure that will pretend like, oh, I can't come to work today. My boss voted for Donald Trump. And so everybody plays that game. And you can't get a promotion on your job if you let them know how you really think. And so it's no different than the educational system where kids have been trained to lie about their beliefs to get good grades in school, and people are being trained to lie about their beliefs to get promotions at work. You know, there is a method to Trump's madness, and there is a justification for his madness when you really look at the repercussions of what Jimmy Kimmel and some of these other people are doing. Is it worth playing? Yeah, let's play SOT number 8. This is Kimmel making comments on Erica Kirk. Let's play that.
A moment over the weekend, a very beautiful moment. I don't know if you saw this. On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that. not this. So
that's a tiny bit triggering for me. But I'm gonna take the bright side. The events have unfolded in a way that forced Jimmy Kimmel to profess the name of Jesus Christ. I think he's being an opportunist about it, but he was forced to do it and profess to claim a faith. I'm gonna, be like Paul and say whether he's doing it for sincere reasons or insincere reasons, at least he's proclaiming the name of Jesus. I'm going to rejoice in that. TJ, I know that's probably a little bit more difficult for you. You're not quite Paul yet. You haven't reached the level of righteousness that me and Paul have all reached into.
Yeah. We're working on I do think I saw your name right after Paul's.
Yeah.
No, look, I love that he said that. Actually, I love that he said it. I don't see any of it in his actions. I would love to see his actions follow it. And what I would love to see is a correction made, which what I think intentionally he does things to manipulate. I think that was to manipulate again. Look, just because we can forgive people while not actually believing they're sincere. And I don't believe do I believe he's a sincere believer? I don't see the fruit of it. And James would tell me, you should check out the fruit before you believe something. So that is my general contention is you can't say, let's believe in forgiveness. Let's 100%. He was indirectly preaching a message of unity. Let's forgive each other, move forward. 5 seconds after you went back into the authoritarian fascist deal you had with Donald Trump. I don't understand how those two things go together. I'm going to continue to make sure that the most psychotic among us, that he suggests we don't have prisons, we have open borders, and we let as many dangerous people in America as humanly possible. Let's get all these people here together. Hopefully, they're one of the 15 people watching my show so I can inspire them to take a shot at some of these conservatives. And forgive me on the other side of that. That's kind of what I heard. Truly, it is. And it's a cynical way to look at it, but the reality is, look, I want Jimmy Kimmel to come to Jesus. I hope he is a Christian. I don't see the fruit of it. And I do want forgiveness myself. I certainly need it. Probably even within this conversation, I need it. Okay. But I'm just saying that all of his actions point to him not caring about any of this. And to be able to turn around 2 weeks after somebody just got murdered. After 9/11, everybody turned down the temperature. Okay. For about 6 months, the whole country was singing Kumbaya. There was no really right left. George W. Bush's approval rating went up to 82%, a modern history high. We actually did have a unity thing. Charlie Kirk is assassinated in cold blood, and 2 weeks later, Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom, and Jimmy Kimmel are right back to calling everybody fascist Nazis and then highlighting the forgiveness of the poor widow. Like, it's going to be hard for me to take that to heart.
Shamika.
Well, he that saith, I know him, but keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth ain't in him. So this is where I put on my inspector badge, my fruit inspector badge, because I don't understand how Jimmy Kimmel is saying that he is a follower of Jesus when he pushes homosexuality and transgenderism, and not just pushes it or supports it. He gets upset with other people who don't accept homosexuality and transgenderism, which is totally against God. It's against nature. So I don't really buy the whole bit of where he let the lump come in his throat and his voice crack in this instance, because we see something totally different from him when those clips come around. I don't watch his show, but he seems to support evil and everything that God says is sin. So I just don't buy it.
All right, we're going to put a pin in this conversation because I want to get into probably something that probably has me skating the line here, tempting the line here. Am I going too far? But anyway, she did it, so I'm going to go into it. Nina Westbrook, she is the wife of Russell Westbrook. I've never communicated with her a day in my life. I didn't know much about her. I was aware that Russell was married, but that was pretty much it. And so that's why I was surprised when I believe this was on Saturday. And she may have sent it on Thursday, but I didn't see it in my Instagram DMs until Saturday, I believe. Russell Westbrook's wife DM'd me over Instagram. And here's what she DM'd me. Jason, it was just brought to my attention that years ago you brought my kids up in a disgusting post or segment. Then she quotes me as having said, Russell Westbrook is using his kids to shield himself from criticism. It's sad, embarrassing, cowardly. He laid another Westbrick in his post-game interview, end quote. I do remember saying something like this, and I think this was around the time Russell Westbrook was going at it with Skip Bayless over the nickname Westbrick, and Russell Westbrook started arguing that being called Westbrook was an affront to his children because their last name was Westbrook, and they would have to deal with the baggage of this, and this is therefore unfair of Russell Westbrook to argue that, Skip giving me this derisive nickname harms my kid. And so I was saying, like, nah, man, we've been giving athletes nicknames and playing with their last names to make a point for a long, long time. And you trying to, because I think at this time Russell was going through a very difficult time as an offensive player and throwing up a lot of bricks, and Skip Bayless's nickname Westbrick was pretty effective. And so I was calling out Russell Westbrook like, hey, man, ain't no reason to bring your kids into this. You're defend yourself without throwing your kids up as a shield. I'm only defending myself because of my kids, and they go to school and they'll be called Westbrick. I found it disingenuous. Anyway, her DM continued, that's what you said. By the grace of God, I didn't hear it at the time. Don't ever mention my kids or even think to bring them up in your hateful and vile commentary again. Never. And I mean never. You are the one that should be embarrassed and ashamed, and that you would stoop to that level of low for a like or on social media. My children are not a shield. Despicable people like you who get paid to literally go on TV to tear down talented good people and call it commentary are the true cowards. Sadly for you, I am my children's shield. I have to shield them from disgusting humans like yourself. You gossip for a living on TV and social media behind a screen. Please look in the mirror before you have the nerve to call others a coward. Signed, Nina. And so I got this DM, and I'm sitting there shocked, and I'm like, this woman is contacting me about something that happened years ago. She's stirring up trouble. I'm like, man, this is what, this is in her nature. Like, hey, something happened 3 years ago that I just heard about that had no impact on me or my kids, but I'm going to hop in Jason Whitlock's DMs and see if I can stir up some drama and beef between me and Jason Whitlock or Russell and Jason Whitlock. And I'm just sitting there going, this is it. If you want to know why there's a lot of black men sitting in jails and prison cells because they've been gaslit by their wife, by their drama-stirring wife or significant other, putting a battery in their back. Baby, you should be upset. Did you hear what happened 3 years ago? I didn't even know what happened, but I'm going to hop in another man's DMs on Instagram and see if I can stir up some drama and trouble behind this. And I could speculate on how this happened. Maybe she was out to dinner with Joy Taylor, and Joy Taylor was talking about, her assassination plots on me, and Joy is like, Nina, you want to join me in my plot to assassinate Jason Whitlock? Me and Cam Newton and Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, we're working on a plan. Did you hear what he said about your kids 3 years ago? Sounds far-fetched, but when I was trying to rack my brain, like, how did we get here? I'm minding my own business. I don't know who this woman is. She don't know me. And she's talking about something that happened 3 years ago that was just brought up to her attention? How? Anyway, I responded, as I'm prone to do, not knowing not to leave things alone. And, I said, hi, Nina. Hey, what's that next sentence? I got it up. What's the next sentence after I say, hi, Nina? What's the next thing that I say? Yeah. And then I say, you're using your kids to shield Russell from criticism. I said nothing negative about your kids. I criticized Russell. Same way I'm criticizing you right now for pretending I did something to your kids. Your argument is illogical. You know that. You're just looking for an excuse to stir drama. You've been stirring drama since the garden. It's in your nature to look for conflict. Take your silly, veiled threats elsewhere. I don't have time for it. Jails are filled with black men who get gassed up by drama-stirring women. Do better. Read the book of Proverbs. Submit to Jesus Christ. Repent from gang tactics. Stop the demonic cosplay. And so that was my response. And I don't think it's the response Nina was anticipating, but she responded back, great, you received my message. You heard what I said. Don't speak on them ever. Full stop. She went the whole full stop. Is that kind of like talk to my hand or full stop? I don't know. Anyway, I responded back that I'm going to share your DM, let you do all the talking. And so that's what I've done. I'm letting Nina do all the talking. I'm sure she'll somehow, me reading her DM, interpreting her DM, she'll somehow paint herself as some sort of victim here. But the real victim seems to be Russell. That, did Russell sanction this? I don't know. I would hope that he didn't sanction this because this seems very feminine to me, looking for drama where there is no drama. Going into a man's DMs to stir drama. It seems very feminine to me, and I hope Russell had nothing to do with it. And if Russell has a complaint about me airing this out and talking about it, I would suggest to Russell, take it up with your wife. It's not on me. And I get that you guys are from LA and that you've been on stage with Kendrick Lamar and you're probably friends with Big U and you're friends with this guy or that guy. I get it all. I get it all. I don't care. I could, in your mind, I could be making a mistake by fearing God far more than I fear Nina Westbrook, Russell Westbrook, or any of the other idiots out there that think that, hey, I've made millions of dollars and therefore no one can say anything that I like or don't like. They have to seek my attention and approval for their thoughts. I'm a public figure. I'm above it all. I'm a multimillionaire. I'm above it all. I don't care. I try to be fair. I'm not running around. It looks like I'm just running around looking for trouble. I'm not. I'm minding my own business. And this woman's hopping into my DMs, stirring up problems for Russell and myself. I wanted a woman's take on this. Shamika, can you help? And I think Nina Westbrook, according to her bio on Instagram, she's some sort of licensed family and marriage therapist, I think. Is she demonstrating appropriate behavior here. What do we have here?
You know what's crazy, Jason, is people will actually criticize you for correcting her before they will criticize her for sliding into your DMs. This is a prime example of a Jezebel spirit can't operate without an Ahab spirit. It really screams to Russell's lack of leadership and authority in his own household, because why would she do this? I did a show where we talked about women needing to shed their fake masculinity and how they sometimes overlook masculine behaviors. One of those behaviors is becoming the aggressor or taking on aggressor energy, in which she did here, wanting to come and check you over something that was 3 years old and trying to lead with intimidation. Let's just say you were about that life. What could she actually do to you except put her husband in a position to have to defend her, because she wouldn't be able to physically defend herself if you were that type of person. So again, you're right. There are so many Black men dead or in jail because women don't know how to shut up and stay in a woman's place. She had no business sliding into your DM for multiple reasons. And when it comes to her being a marriage counselor, she tossed some of those strategies that she should have been using right out of the window. So I don't buy the whole marriage counselor bit, and she was just completely in error to actually DM you.
I do want to add a bit more context. She has some type of podcast that she does where she gives out family advice, relationship advice. She wants to be a public figure. And so this isn't some homemaker that's just minding her own business. She wants to be discussed publicly. She wants to discuss things publicly. I'm giving her the attention that she ordered, but I'm trying to do it in a respectful way, but also in a way that other women can look at her and hear a different perspective on her behavior and perhaps adjust. If you really, all this white supremacy that everyone talks about is what's wrong with the criminal justice system. If you've ever lived in the hood, if you've ever understood the actual dynamics in relationships, particularly between a Black man and a Black woman, it's this behavior that's the real problem at the root of the criminal justice system, and why Black men, most men do things in pursuit of women, in pursuit of pleasing women. And you get talked into fights, you get talked into beefs, you get talked into disputes that should be like simple, disagreements that lead nowhere. But a woman will throw a match and a can of gasoline on something and turn nothing. When you start out an email, it was just brought to my attention that years ago, that's when let me hit the delete. I just found out about this 5 minutes ago, and it happened 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, or whenever. And I'm trying to stir up something, trying to threaten some other grown man on the other side of the country. And TJ, you have a thought here? I know this is your area of expertise.
I cannot think about how mortified I would be if my wife did this to me. That's where I'm sitting over and over. I'm like, first of all, how does she have time for this, right? If you're actually raising children, okay. Do you know how busy my wife is with our 3 children? She doesn't have 1 second. Of all the things we want to do, because we talk all the time about the things, like we're very aspirational, both of us. We have a long list of things. We want to be growing spiritually. We want to be growing intellectually. We want to be growing communally with our friends. We want to be, there's areas everywhere that we want, and we want, we'd be growing our marriage. There's tons of things we want to do. It's never come up that we want to grow conflicts with Jason Whitlock for some reason. It's never hit me that, we should look up something somebody mean said about us. And I say enough dumb things on this show and elsewhere that people say mean things about us. And if you wanted to Google my name or put them into, Mizzou message boards or whatever, you could find some things that people said about me that weren't that nice. And Kara doesn't know anything about them. Do you know why? Because she's so busy with her actual job as a mother and as a wife, and thinking like we've got a 4, 2, and 5-month-old. Okay. And they have young kids. I'm looking up as of it looks like their kids are like 8 and 5 or 8 and 6. They have young kids. So what are you doing? Like, truly, like, do you think you're playing mama bear? I cannot get inside her head. You have so many jobs to do as a mother. And I think a mother is the single most important thing a woman could be doing, mothering your children. That's it. There's nothing close. Not being the CEO of a finance company, not beefing with other personalities, certainly not running a podcast. It is mothering your children and running your home. Because look, this is the reality of it. Russ is out on the road most of the time, playing and providing for the family. Like, that is the job of a man. So that means the woman in her domain, that's the household. And you have to run those things. And these women have this idea that they're mama bearing everywhere. And that the way to do it is to go out and challenge people and silence them with your words on Instagram. I don't get it, truly. You're doing nothing but, first of all, now bringing bad attention to your own family and your husband, who now Russ has to deal with this. And Russ, of course, has to go around and has to act like he's got the back of his wife. So at some point, Russ probably comes and challenges you over some and says, keep Nina's name out your mouth, and has to go all tough guy on you. It's like, what are we doing? All because some woman took her focus away from what God said: raise your children. Raise your children. It's a very difficult task. It's really, really hard. All the time. I know it. We do it in my house. The amount of lessons that I want to teach my children that I don't have time to teach them is infinite. Truly. I don't have time to be picking fights. And I think it's crazy. I think it's truly absurd for a woman to take time out of her day to pick a fight with somebody who said something 3 years ago that is in absolutely no way a threat to her family or her in any way. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Tamika, I'll give you the final thought.
Yeah, I'm with TJ. Her first job before she's a podcaster, before she's trying to be some type of public influencer, she is a wife and a mom. And what she did was made her husband look like a cup. It made him look very weak, as if his testicles are being carried around in her purse. And so this just isn't a good look. If she was trying to accomplish something, the only thing she accomplished was looking as if she's married to just a weak man, because she had no business in your DM to check you at all.
I can hear my critics already. Oh, you didn't have to do her that way. You should have showed her some grace. If this had been a white woman, you wouldn't have done this or that. Blah. And first of all, none of that's true, or it's inaccurate criticism. But I'm honestly trying to push her a better direction. And if not her, then some other woman who may have the same thought running through her head that I need to do this for my husband or my kids. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a waste of your energy. It won't accomplish anything positive. It will make you look foolish. It will make your husband look foolish. You have far better things to do. And particularly if someone says, hey, something was said about you 3 years ago that you know nothing about, and you need to address it. That person's insane. That person is some sort of psyop, trying to put a battery in your back that wants to send you down. Misery loves company, and so my speculation is, she was out to dinner with somebody, having wine with somebody, and that person was talking about how terrible Jason Whitlock is. And, girl, you should agree with me. Didn't you know what he said about your kids 3 years ago? And that person wants to drag you down into their misery and their stupid actions and activities. And it's a path straight to hell. So, Nina, I've given you the attention that you want. Russ, I'm sorry you went through that shooting slump where they were calling you Westbrook. I hope your shot falls this season and no one calls you Westbrook this season. I will say, if you do shoot poorly, I might call you Westbrook. That is what we do in the sports world. People call me fat because I'm fat. If you shoot a lot of bricks, people are going to call you West Brick because you shoot bricks. It's in your control. Just like I can go get on my Stairmaster after this show. It's in my control. So people call me Fatlock. That's,
Jason, you know what they used to chant when I was shooting free throws in high school? It was TJ Homo. So we all get it.
Toughen up that skin, brother. Toughen up that skin, Russell. You'll be okay, baby. You can handle a little criticism. Mommy Nina will be there, and she'll pat you on the butt and pat you on the head, and it'll be all right. Anyway, that's it. That's all. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back